Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for the segment, we have Simon Mott, Chief Marketing Officer over at TrackInsight, for his view into 2022 for what's been a record-breaking ETF market. Simon, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Jill, thanks very much for having me again.
Yep, you got it. And it's been a record-shattering year for ETFs. How has the industry changed over 2021?
Yeah, it's been an absolutely incredible year for the industry. We've just topped over $1 trillion in cumulative flows. So that's a fantastic headline number to finish the year on. I think overall, like all industries, the ETF markets faced all the challenges of COVID, of lockdowns, and has really come through its strength to strength. We've seen a huge amount of new entrants coming to markets. Not just new products, which we'll get onto in a second, but new companies launching ETFs for the first time. So it's really become a much more kind of dynamic, much more crowded marketplace. I think also some of the challenges that we face collectively have changed the way people are operating. It's changed the way marketing and sales is happening within the ETF business and created a demand for new approaches. Again, we'll probably touch on that in a few minutes. But a couple of things I wanted to highlight for your viewers today were really the kind of scale of the launches that we've seen this year, because it really has been absolutely turbocharged. In the North American market, there's been over 350 products, more than one a day, launch and give people more choice into new asset classes and new ideas. Europe has been not too far behind with about 167 launches, and around 94 and 95 in Asia Pacific. So we can say that's been a tremendous success, especially with the asset growth. But what's been interesting for us here at TrackInsight is to see a little bit more detail about what type of products people have launched and what that says about the industry moving forwards. Now, of those 600 plus launches so far this year, more than half have been focused around ESG and sustainability themes, and over 200 of them have been actively managed strategies. Now, active has seen over $100 billion of flows, and ESG ETFs have seen over $160 billion of flows. So if that's indicating a direction of travel for 2022, one of the things I would say is we should be predicting a lot more conversation around sustainability themes, ETFs, net zero and carbon. And we're going to be hearing a lot more from active managers about why their strategies may be performing well or not.
Right, and you had mentioned green energy and ESG was very much in focus, but what trends have investors been buying outside of that? And what are some to watch going into 2022?
Yeah, when we look at the top performers of the year, Jill, I mean, it's really been dominated not by the clean energy guys, but by the traditional oil and gas energy sector. And in fact, almost all of the top performers have been in that sector, with one exception. And this is something that your viewers would have found out about 6 months ago if they've been listening to us, because we've been talking about it a lot, which is the dry bulk shipping ETF, BDRY. Looks like it's going to finish the year on top with volatile but still extremely impressive performance. So those seem to have been the main trends for 2021. But at TrackInsight, we're also looking not just what people have been buying, but what people have been searching for. This gives us a kind of sense about what people might be looking to buy in future. And we're seeing more focus around the kind of technology sector, particularly some of the emerging and innovative technologies, such as the metaverse, such as clean tech. But we're also seeing growing interest, obviously, in the cryptocurrency markets, and tying back into those sustainability themes. Now we've just finished the COP conference, more focus on carbon transition and net zero. So they may be potentially things that see a resurgence or feature in more portfolios in 2022.
And Simon, what other predictions does TrackInsight have for the ETF industry and investors going into 2022?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to be quite bullish here. As I said, we've had $1 trillion of flows this year under some difficult circumstances. Things seem to be picking up. So we'll see what happens this time next year, whether we're right or wrong. But I wouldn't be surprised if the ETF market globally manages to reach $12 trillion in AUM over the course of 2022. We nearly hit it in 2021, so I'm confident next year we'll get the first month of $100 billion of flows in the North American market. But coming back to some of those points I mentioned earlier, we've seen ESG and sustainability ETFs launching at a tremendous pace. These products now need to get sold. So I would think from a marketing and sales communications point of view, I think a lot of asset managers will be pushing those products very heavily as some of the legislative and regulatory pressures come to bear on the end investors. We also saw how the active market has really heated up, and we don't see any sign of that abating. More active asset managers are realizing that ETFs are a powerful technology which they can use to get their ideas out there. So I think that the pace may actually increase next year, depending on the market conditions. When we look at the kind of overall structure of the market, Jill, we've seen two different trends on either side of the Atlantic. Now, the US market has really been focused very much on the retail investors, but it's becoming increasingly institutionalized, with large asset owners now transitioning maybe away from mutual funds and into ETFs. We're certainly confident that trend is going to continue. And in Europe, the flip side of that coin is happening. Well, we've had a very institutional market, but now the retail and the the individual investors are getting involved, and maybe some of the tailwinds that are going to push us into that $12 trillion mark. When we look at maybe from an insider's point of view, you know, I said we've had this record growth, and we've done it in a period where a lot of people have not been in the office, where maybe the sales teams are not seeing clients quite as frequently. And we haven't had the kind of normal calendar of industry events and conferences and other kind of networking opportunities to take advantage of. But nonetheless, we've had record growth. So this may make some executives scratch their head and go, well, what's the point of our sales? What's the point of our sales team when marketing's clearly doing a lot of work? So one of my predictions for 2022 is much greater alignment in ETF businesses between sales and marketing. Because I think if the last 18 months have proven anything, is that really the marketing teams are helping to get the message out there, despite the fact that a lot of the traditional infrastructure and meeting points of the ETF industry have disappeared. So let's check back in next year, and we'll see how many of those I get wrong.
Well, you know what, I would agree with you on just how strong marketing has been. I would say the biggest transformation has certainly been over the 2 years with the different ways that they're using data to personalize their marketing efforts. And it really is quite remarkable. So I would agree with you there, Simon. We'll see how that plays out over the next 12 months. Thank you for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.